Hi, I'm Joel Van Vliet, and some people think of me just as a musician, but I'm actually also a stand up comedian, and I run a show. I'm the host, Comedy at Camp Cataract. That's in Niagara Falls, Ontario, um, downtown on Queen Street, right across from City Hall at a little place called Camp Cataract. You guessed it. Um, as a host, I interact with comedians of all different uh, shapes and sizes, and also experience levels. And some of them have asked me, Joel, how do you write a joke? So I'd like to help you and them with this little video, which I have called The Anatomy of a Joke. Let's get started. So what I wanted to do here was I wanted to actually write a joke on my trusty phone with you right now. Now I have an idea of where the joke's going to go, but I'm going to write it in the moment with you and describe what I'm doing so that you can see what the actual anatomy of the joke is. And I love that word anatomy because a joke is a lot like a body, and you're going to see how that works. So pay attention to that. And this isn't just for comedians. People that are in the audience, sometimes it might be nice to go, "Oh, what is he doing up there? Like, what's the trick that he's?" It's not really a trick, but what's he doing? And this is going to help you go, "Oh, that's the anatomy of the joke he's telling." So pretty neat. All right, so let's start. So the first line of the joke here I'm going to put down is, "I was walking down the street." Now, it's really important for your jokes to have legs. Okay, you've probably heard that, you need your story to have legs. You need anything to have legs. You want your joke to have legs. So I always like to start not sitting on the couch, not lying in bed sleeping. Heaven forbid, there's not a lot that's going to happen in a joke if you're asleep. So I was walking down the street. Give your joke legs. And then what do we want next? Well, a guy called to me. Wait up. Okay? Now, what I've done here is I've given my joke a voice. It's so important to have a voice in comedy, and in this case, I've given a character. I'm doing some character comedy now. I've given a character a voice in the joke, but I also have ears. I'm also listening, and listening is so important. More important in improv, but it's also important when you're writing your own jokes because you're kind of improvising on your own. So a guy called to me, "Wait up," and I thought, that's the next line. I thought, and that's so important. You want to have some intellectualness to your jokes. You want to have some smartness, and add your brain to the joke. Make it a thinker, okay? So don't just sit there and go, "Oh, I'll do the dumbest thing." No. Put some thought into it, and that's why you go, "I thought this guy is using an old phrase, wait up," right? Okay, so now we're thinking about what the other guy said, and we're kind of shining a spotlight on what's funny about it. He said, "Wait up, wait up." That's an old phrase. And so you're going, that's an old phrase. So you're thinking, right? But also, what does that do? That clues the audience into, when is this joke happening, right? Is it in the past? No, it's at least current times, because it's an old phrase. Well, "wait up" is an old phrase. And so we must be past the old times, so we must be now times. And so that gives you a where. Okay, it's really important to anchor your jokes in a time period, right? Now, the next line would be, "I looked over." I looked over. Again, we're going back to anatomy. You want to use as many senses as possible. You want to use as many body parts, but you want to go, "I'm seeing, I'm hearing, I'm speaking," which you will in a second. But the guy approached, and I shook his hand. All right? I just want to add that hand thing because hands are so important, and you just get hands in there, and that's going to help the joke because you're fleshing it out. You've heard that term, fleshing it out. So there's flesh on hands, there's flesh on feet, there's flesh on legs. You want to give the joke legs, feet, as much flesh as possible. He said, "Sorry for yelling, but I'm at my wit's end." Okay, now, as the great Don Rickles said, you want to give it a little ticker. You want to give it a bit of heart. And the way you do that is to say, "Sorry for yelling. I'm sorry." Very Canadian, I know, but you want to give it a little heart. "I'm sorry for yelling." And then I go, this is another line in the joke. Another retro phrase, I thought. Okay, so don't be afraid to double down on thinking. All right? You can't have too much thought in a joke. You can't make it too intellectual. All right? Because people love that smarts because they go, hey, I'm figuring this out and I'm on the same page with this guy. I feel smart and that's going to make me laugh. So, you go, another retro phrase. Sorry, I'm at my wit's end. Now we've had 2 of those. All right? What seems to be your problem, friend? That's the response from me. So now there's a couple things going on here. I've given myself the voice in comedy now. I'm not the character anymore. I'm me. And I'm going, what seems to be wrong? I feel in your jokes, make sure you reply, okay? Show your voice. And then number 2, you're making a connection. So important in comedy. So important. You want to connect with your audience. And sometimes you do that through the characters in the jokes. Okay? Connect. Make connections. He buried his hands in his face, sobbing. All right? And already you're probably going, oh, that sounds funny. But if you don't have emotion in a joke, it's not going to be funny. Okay? You need to add some sort of, we've already added heart, but we need to add an emotional center. All right? So people there's that word again, connect. Now, take the listener on a journey, right? We sat by the side of the road. Okay, I know I said you want to give the joke legs, and you do. I mean, any good joke has legs, and sometimes they're implied, like with, why did the chicken cross the road? Well, you don't have to say with his legs. You know that the chicken had legs. That's how it crossed the road. Chickens can't fly, so it wasn't wings. So you can imply legs, but also it's okay once the legs are part of the joke to have a seat. All right, you can't be standing the whole time, and that's sometimes just going to make the audience tired. So it's okay to have a seat. And then your character says, I've been searching for a book. Oh, wow. Okay, so I told you can't be too intellectual. Now we're bringing literature into it. Literature is highbrow. Punch up. You've heard that phrase. You don't want to punch down at illiterate people or something like that. You want to punch up. So bring in literature, and people are like, okay, this is going to be funny and highbrow. And then he goes, the joke is called 101 Jokes to Read on the John. All right, that's cheeky because we're talking about toilet humor here. But I'm also mentioning jokes. So it's okay in a joke to mention jokes and to be funny. It's actually almost important to be funny in a joke. So I always like to sometimes mention a joke within a joke, and then you're kind of adding to the funny because you're already being funny by mentioning funny things, which is jokes. So he goes on. He says, I'm looking for 101 jokes to read on the John, but I can't find a bookstore. What gives? Exasperation. And you want to act that. What gives? And that's the third retro phrase, you'll notice. So you do things in threes. All good comedy is done in threes. You'll have heard of that. So what gives? That's the third retro phrase. People are going to be laughing because they're going to go, And then I said, you don't even have to mention the retro phrase in the joke part, but you go, then I said, and that's the announcement of the punchline. This is very important. You have to announce the punchline. Then I said, don't just go, then I said, because people aren't going to know there's a punchline. So you got to go, then I said, right? And then here's the punchline. Have you checked 1994, boomer? Hey, he's looking for a bookstore. You say, have you checked 1994, boomer? That's good. So here I wanted to just give you a bit of the explanation of the joke, because sometimes it might not be entirely obvious. I think a lot of the time the audience is going to be with you. But so most of us know that Amazon was established in 1994, which Amazon is by and large destroying and killing all the brick and mortar bookstores, right? So that's so funny because you're saying, have you checked 1994, right? So people go, oh, I know that little tidbit of information. And so now, of course, also the listener gets a surprise of the joke probably being set in the future. So that's another layer because like we've made it seem like current times, but if you can't find a bookstore, there are still bookstores around, but a lot of them are not around anymore. But this is probably set in the future because there are absolutely no bookstores which have 101 hilarious jokes to read on the John. And then that also is the extra reveal why this guy is using retro phrases. He's from the past, right? He's actually stuck in the past, which is really funny when someone is stuck in the past. And then, of course, adding boomer to that just makes it topical. And that's something that eventually you won't be able to say anymore because everyone will be like, what's boomer mean? But for the time now, that's really funny to go boomer, you know. So that's basically what's going on behind the joke, and a lot of people, you probably were up on all those little tidbits. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually perform the joke for you as if I would perform it in a stand-up environment. I'm just going to do that over there so you can see it like with the mic and everything. And that's going to give you a sense of how that should look. But if you've enjoyed this video and you want to come see some comedy in Niagara Falls, I have the event link in the description of this video. Also, please leave a comment. Are there tutorials you would like to see? Something you need to learn in the comedy world. I would love to do that tutorial for you. Or what I'd love to read really is your favorite joke. And if you want to break down the anatomy, that's fine for other people reading, but I would love, because I love jokes, so I would love to see a joke that has legs and different body parts. So please leave those in the comments too. But for now, let's see that joke performed properly by a comedian in its entirety. I was walking down the street and a guy called to me, "Wait up!" I thought, this guy's using an old phrase, wait up. I looked over. The guy approached, and I shook his hand. He said, "Sorry for yelling, but I'm at my wit's end." Well, another retro phrase, I thought. What seems to be your problem, friend? He buried his hands in his face, sobbing. Well, we sat on the side of the road. I've been searching for a book. It's called 101 Jokes to Read on the John. But I can't find a bookstore. What gives? Then I said, have you checked 1994, boomer? And that's how you tell a joke / write a joke.